Welcome to the SharkPod, the podcast that explores business and lifestyle design in Ireland and beyond. And now, live from Greystone Studios, here are your hosts, Luke Curry and Mark Baker.
What is up, SharkNation? Sorry. I've never done that in front of someone I didn't really know before.
Right, okay.
Right.
I should ignore that.
You're all very welcome here to the SharkPod. I'm here, your host Luke Curry, my brother-in-law Mark Baker, that you guys all know, and we're sitting here with Chris Lauder of the Dublin Education Academy.
Close.
Yes,
we rehearsed that as well.
Yeah. So the
Dublin Academy of Education.
Dublin Academy of Education. So this is the first time that we've actually taken the podcast on the road. So we're using our roadcaster. We're live on location in the school here. So Chris, thanks very much for taking the time to have a chat with us today. We're really... Sorry, Mark's looking at me a little bit.
No. Go ahead.
All good? Okay.
All good, yeah.
So just to give you a little background to our listeners, you guys are a grind school. You're a school that's providing kind of high-end, very focused education, classes education kind of service to 5th and 6th years, and also junior cert, or?
Yeah, so we started out life as a grind school doing weekly classes for 1st to 6th years.
Cool.
In second level. And that then has kind of evolved into its own full-time school, doing part-time stuff, as well as now courses for 5th years and 6th years, whereby they leave their schools and they come to us on a full-time basis. You can also repeat the Leaving Cert with us as well. So it's kept us busy for the last 10 years.
10 years? Has it been 10 years?
10 years,
Oh my God. This is
time flies.
Mark was the one who really instigated this. You and Mark go back a little bit.
Yeah.
When did you guys meet?
Yeah, for context, I was probably there year 1 or 2, probably.
It would have been year 2.
Yeah. So you were, yourself, Brian and Tom were in Jollylands in Kilternan.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of, I saw the genesis of the school.
Pretty much.
And all the hard work that went in. I was up there painting in the same office, kind of just in the corner.
Much, right beside each other.
So it was a hub of creativity.
Absolutely,
but it was inspiring to see us and to see. And he gave us a tour of the place now, just to see how much it's grown. It's incredible.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been some journey.
Yeah,
I tell you.
Super impressive as well. You're looking around here. When I was back in secondary school, I actually went to some grinds at night when I was in 5th or 6th year as well. I think it was somewhere in Fox Rock or something.
Yeah, the Fox Rock Academy. What was it called? Fox Rock Institute. Yeah.
And it was kind of a primary school, I think, that they repurposed at night. So
we also held grinds there.
Okay, really?
Yeah. After they closed down. Yeah.
So this is.
Did you put them out of business?
We won't go there.
Yeah.
Not really.
Chris. So you gave us the tour around here.
Yeah.
We're based in Stillorgan in South County Dublin.
Yeah.
Beautiful facility you have here. The operation is way bigger than I even thought from the website, which is fantastic. I really want to talk about the website as well, because it's something that I was looking at. I was doing a little bit of research before this, and the marketing is really on point. I think something that Mark is really interested in as well. But maybe for the listeners, we might start a little bit to rewind the clock. And kind of kick off where this all started. So you've been in business for a decade.
10 years.
What were you doing before that? Where'd you go to? Let's start from the very beginning. Where'd you go to secondary school?
So I went to Wesley College in Ballantyre.
Nice.
And I remember I got to the point where I was in 6th year to fill out my CAO, that career shopping list we've all been through.
100%.
How accurate that is at choosing your path in life. And I chose civil engineering, because I was told by guidance counsellors, you're good at maths, you're good at physics, you like Lego, love Lego for some reason.
Nice.
And they said, engineer, be an
Danish of you.
engineer. And that kind of fit because my father, who was from a family business background, we had a family business in chemical distribution, which is a very sexy topic, which I could talk for hours on.
Really?
And,
it does sound interesting, though. I would like to dig into that.
Distribution, it sounds a bit like Breaking Bad or something.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what's going on there.
But
I like it.
That was a 50-year-old company that his father had founded, and I was always told growing up that Chris, one day you and your siblings and cousin, you'll go in and take over the family business, which was quite a significant organisation. There's about 35 people working there.
Oh, really?
It had a pretty significant turnover. And I was kind of told, Chris, do engineering in college, and then when you get out of engineering, you can come work in the family business. So I had this kind of preordained path of being an entrepreneur of sorts, or a business person. And I remember I went into engineering in UCD. I was lucky enough to get the points to get in. I don't know how. And I met a guy in there called Brian, who we talked about just there. Brian was similar to me in terms of his interest. He had a family business himself, and his plan was the same: get an engineering degree, get a bit of life experience, and then go work for the family business. And when we were in about third year of that degree, this thing called the recession, some of the listeners might not even remember that, that descended upon
Chris,
the world.
we're really kind of going into the same, like all the people that we've been interviewing have gone down this kind of path as well. Everyone's like coming out of college, what the hell's going on? We had been promised this Celtic Tiger when we were growing up. I remember when we were in. It's
because of our age group, but I'm a little bit older than you. But
Do you know kind of way? So this is very. A lot of people are kind of resonating with this.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's because when I was filling out my CAO in 2006, everybody was building. A civil engineer. Happy days. You're going to make a fortune. So I was like, lovely. Anyway, in 2008, then the recession happened. In 2009, then was the third year I was in college. Our family business went under.
Completely gone.
35 employees gone.
Wow.
And,
how quickly?
Like in the space of about 6 to 9 months. Wow. They lost some key contracts from suppliers in Germany, and that was literally curtains. Oh my God. They're overexposed in terms of they had too many eggs in too few baskets. Yeah. And once those contracts went, the whole house of cards came down. Along with other issues as well, in terms of property and so on, which I won't go into, like lots of people. And that business went under very quickly. And I was sitting there in third year going, I hate engineering. I don't want to be in engineering. Shit. And even if I did like engineering, there's going to be no jobs by the time I graduate anyway. So what the hell am I going to do? And Brian, who the guy I met, he was of the same kind of background as I said, and his family business went under as well.
Around the same time?
Around the same time, yeah. So they
This was a nuts time in Ireland, wasn't it? So things were just falling out of the sky. Everyone...
Unbelievable, yeah. And me and Brian were just going, this is nuts. Like, what are we going to do when we get out of college? And we both had very similar interests. We'd always be reading books on business and psychology and personal development. And there was one book in particular that really resonated with us. It was called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I'm sure it's a book you might have heard of. And we read this book and we were like, we have to start a business. We need to start a business and get out of here. And we spent all of third and fourth year of our engineering degree, instead of actually going to lectures and studying, just come up with business ideas. And we had loads of mad ones, but the one we eventually settled on was one that was right in front of our face the whole time, which is usually the case. And it was that Brian was doing one-on-one maths grinds while he was going through engineering.
Is he kind of a maths genius, or is he just very good at the studying part? What would be...
Like maths genius and the rest.
Okay.
Not only was he a maths genius, but he had this amazing ability to explain maths to students in such a way that they completely understood and clicked with.
Brilliant.
And he didn't even almost know how good he was until later. And I noticed he was doing like 10 or 15 of these grinds a week on his motorbike, driving people's houses, making a fortune. And it's word about him spread so quickly because he was so great. And I said, why are you doing them all one at a time? Would you not put them in a room and conduct a class? He goes, do you know what, I thought about that, but I haven't got around to it. I said, well, why don't we do that when we get out of here? And bingo. So that was the plan. So we somehow got through engineering, and the degree's behind me on the wall there. I have it up there for the crack.
There it is.
I've never once worked a day in my life as an engineer. And there's my Institute of Education card as well. I also went there. That's also a bit of a nod to them because they helped me get into the engineering degree, which is ironic now considering how things have turned out.
It's a ghost town over there. Never mind.
So anyway, so myself and Brian got out of college. We said we were going to start this maths school, doing maths classes for junior and Leaving Cert students. We saw an opportunity.
Super niche,
to do this.
just maths.
Super niche. It was almost like the perfect storm because in around 2010, 2011 is when we started. There was a new maths curriculum coming in called Project Maths. And this Project Maths was meant to bring maths into the modern age. No longer would you be doing differentiation by first principles with no context about what it's used for in real life.
Cool. You'd
be using differentiation to design the Port Tunnel or the new Lewis track or something like that. So it was basically trying to make maths relatable and real world-ish, Anyway, it was meant to eradicate the need for grinds because it took the rote learning aspect out of maths, okay? And me and Brian were sitting there going, this is going to be a disaster. They're not going to, anytime anything changes, there's always an opportunity. And we felt that there'd be a big opportunity to do maths grinds in this. And we were right. And the demand for grinds went through the roof, and we were just at the right place, the right time.
So what year was this, Chris?
This was in September of 2010. And we were going, okay, we want to start a maths school. What do we need? So we need a name. So we call ourselves the Dublin School of Maths. Sounds kind of
Nice.
like
I
it's
like
been
it.
around for a while.
It does.
You know, not just Chris and Brian's maths classes. It's the Dublin School of Maths.
I remember seeing signs for these.
Oh, they did a lot of guerrilla marketing.
Yeah, there's one of them there.
Is that so look at that.
Myself and Brian came up with the name. The logo then, we needed a logo, we needed a brand.
Yeah.
And my dad wasn't using his logo anymore because his business went under. So we just took that.
Nice.
And we changed
Is that where that came from?
Yeah, we changed the name from Lauder Limited, my dad's company, to the Dublin School of Maths and kept the kind of spirally logo.
Nice.
That would cost about 20 quid. We got someone to do it for us for nothing. Then we said, okay, we need to get a building. We went to a local parish hall. We rented a room about this size for €25 an hour. That was that. Had the venue. We had the teacher, Brian. We had the brand. We then needed a marketing campaign. And our seed capital was pretty significant. So we had €500, right?
Nice.
Each. So 1,000.
500 large.
500
The recession.
each. So this was a lot of money, and we put that together, and a lot of that went on the down payment to actually rent the rooms for the for the classes. But we basically designed up flyers on Word, Microsoft Word, on like our bandy old laptops from school, from college days, printed them off on our home computers, saying Maths Grinds, the phone number, the website, and a few bits about it. And we just printed them off and put them up in petrol stations, post offices, news agents. You name it, supermarkets from Ballsbridge down
So
to
just
Bray.
like the notice boards and stuff,
notice
you're
boards,
plastering them. Right.
Because that's all we could really afford.
Yeah.
And because Brian had a bit of reputation in the Cabinteely, kind of Dunleary area, he got the word out to some of the people he'd be giving classes to that this school was starting. And we started off with 26 students in our first week.
That's incredible.
Which was quite a lot. 26 students, humble beginnings. But
Was there much social media? Did you do any was that even
social media
big?
had just kind of
It's hard to remember,
evolved.
isn't it?
Yeah,
It's-
it did, because I remember I got Facebook in 2008. So it would have been there, but it was still early days yet. Now we had a basic page, but like it's nothing like it is now in terms of being able to target and advertise directly. So no, it was very, very minor presence on social media. The website we literally got made for $5 in India, and it was very poor, but basic,
Yeah.
But we started off with 26 students in our first week. But the thing that we kind of realized pretty quick was that Brian wasn't just a good teacher; he was exceptional. And we've learned very fast that, like, in this industry, which is private education, it's all about the quality of tuition you provide. If you provide good teaching, which gets students great results, they talk about it. So you can do all the fancy marketing you like, unless you're producing the goods for your customers, your students, they won't talk about it and it won't grow.
Is that not the same for any business, really, though? Is that not a simple principle?
Absolutely. Couldn't be any more simple.
Yeah.
It's just, you've got to produce the goods for your customers. But what's interesting about the kind of grinds or private second level education is it's all about being the best. Students will just go to the best one and they'll all go, if that makes sense. There's no like, I'll go to the second best person. I'm sure they're good.
Yeah.
You have to be the best at what you do. And in this industry, students talk. They talk about who's the better teacher and where to go.
And their moms are going to be talking
And
as
their
well.
moms talk and everything. And I could have you here all night, but I'll tell the quickest version of the story I can. But Brian quickly became a household name in maths in South Dublin. I mean, students were coming in their droves to us.
Yeah.
And we spent about 2 years building up just the maths classes. And it got to the point where Brian had about 250, 300 students coming to him every week, just
incredible.
the maths classes. And
Within how many months did that take?
One thing I want to do is I want to just take a bit of a back step there to say how we really got the word out about us. Was that our first year, we had 26 students, but a lot of them were already converted via the word of mouth that was already going around about Brian. But a lot of the time the phone would ring and I'd answer the phone like, hello, Dublin School of Maths. And mothers would be like, why would I send my child to you and not to to that place in town?
Yeah.
They've been around for 50 years. I've never heard of you before. Sell it to me. And, I'd be doing my best as an early 20-year-old trying to sell
pitch.
this
Yeah.
and trying to pitch the elevator pitch about the Dublin School of Maths. And what we found was about a third of the time it was working and they'd pay and they'd come to the classes and it'd be great. But the other times it wasn't. And we were asking ourselves at the end of our first year, like, we're still missing out on a lot of people here. There's a lot of people not signing up to our service. And Brian goes, why don't you just give it away for free?
Okay.
Give it away for free. Now, there's a catch, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But give it away for free because once they sit in the class, we knew that if they just sat in the class and tried it out, they'd love it and they'd stay.
Yeah.
So what we did going into our second year was, our first year we started with 26.
Yeah.
We finished with about 50. okay, students a week, which was grand. It was okay. And our second year, what I didn't say was we actually both had jobs in our first year to basically keep money coming in, to keep the
so
lights
this is
on.
almost like it's the dream, but it's a side hustle at that stage as well.
Absolutely, a side hustle, because I was renting an apartment in Milltown with a couple of lads, and Brian needed income as well. So but one conscious decision we made was not to get jobs in civil engineering. To be honest, it was not an issue because there wasn't any.
So it was something that was for it, but also you guys are taking ownership of that. Then you're saying we're not going to do the engineering thing, because then it's a slippery slope to
getting sucked in to a career that maybe we ultimately knew we didn't want to do. We wanted to.
Here's a question for you: do you think if there was jobs at the time that you would have taken a job?
It terrifies me to think. Maybe I would have, because they were desperate times. Yeah, and sometimes lack of options is a good thing. They say,
I mean if it was today and there's plenty of options, do you think if it was you in that circumstance, even if you had the side hustle, would you have still been, or did you want it enough?
I'd like to give the romantic answer and say no, I would have gone for my dream and chased the moon and stars, and I'm sure I would, and thankfully I don't actually have to think about it too much because we're here now. But I think an important point is that sometimes you have to make a decision, and sometimes that decision's made for you. And the word decision comes from a Latin word called incision, which means to cut off from. Which means that if by making a decision is cutting off from other possibilities. And for me, the decision was made for us. There's no jobs going to engineering, so you guys have to start a business anyway. Cool. And I'm very grateful for that. And by saying I'm grateful for that, that comes from obviously a bit of hindsight, obviously. But, I'd say to people, if you feel like, the world's giving you a tough deal, you know what I mean, and you're getting a bad hand kind of thing, there are some good things in it. And for us, it certainly was the fact that, this forced us into a corner. And I think we act our best when we're up against the wall. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And anyway, not to go off on too much of a rabbit hole down there, but to say that we both got jobs. I got a job lifting blocks on a building site. There was a couple of building sites going. I knew a guy and he gave me a job for €10 an hour, just lifting stuff, and that kept me going. And Brian worked in a greengrocer, just like me, just basically keep money coming in. And we did our whole first year of the school, 50 students. I said we got to that point, and then we said, okay, we've got something here. Let's quit the jobs and let's go at this full time. Okay,
so what was that day when you're like, okay, I'm putting down my work clothes or my building outfit. Yeah, I don't know why it's an outfit. I don't know. It's
the hard hat.
You're putting down the hard hat. What was that? Was the day like where you're like, okay, is it because you had enough students, or was it because you guys had enough put aside that you were confident just to say?
Or was it proof of concept?
Yeah.
Put aside, we had nothing put aside. I'll tell you how much.
Okay.
It would probably more so proof of concept.
Okay.
In that we knew that the 1 year that we'd done enough research and built enough confidence up in the model itself that we believed it was going to work. But we really wanted to turn the dials up on it. In that, as I said, a lot of people didn't trust us because they'd never heard of us.
Yes.
And in education, that's particularly important, is your reputation. If someone's going to send their child to you for education, they're going to know who you are, where you came from, and what you are, proven to do in the past. So we said, okay, let's just give it away for free, and we'll show people how good it is. Okay, so we came up with this idea for a free 3-day maths course. Okay, so before the year started, the academic year in September starts, we'll host a big free 3-day maths course, right? Invite in everybody for free, show them how good Brian is as a teacher, and after the 3 days, say to them, look, well, do you want to sign up for a full year worth of maths classes with us?
Yeah.
And we were like, this is going to be a great idea. It wasn't just going to be 3 days of a sales pitch. It was 3 days of, this is exactly who we are.
Yeah.
This is the type of service you're going to get. These are the notes. This is the types of results you can expect to get from our classes. And I remember we said, we're going to put a leaflet in every door in South Dublin. We're going to have an ad in the newspaper. And we did up this whole marketing plan and business plan. And it was going to cost €15,000 to do the marketing campaign.
Okay, so you're going, and you said you didn't have loads put aside. So this is kind of going all in a little bit, pushing in the chips.
Yeah. So we the first year we kind of roughly broke even in terms of what we turned over. We turned over about 20 grand, let's say.
Okay.
And just about broke even, let's say. And we needed €15,000 to this marketing campaign, and me and Brian didn't have it. We had nothing put aside. So we said, okay, let's go down to the bank and with our business plan and put on our suits and, give a little pitch to the bank. And I won't say which one it was, but they weren't back and brave back then. But you decide. But we went in. I remember going into the bank in Cornell's Court on the N11, and you guys probably know it because you live near there.
Yeah, I know it very well.
And lovely people, in fairness. So we went in.
Turned me down for a student loan at one stage.
Yeah, you always turn down for a loan. That's where my story's going. Anyway, went into this bank, and they were great people, in fairness, and but it was a tough time for them too, and pitched this idea of a free 3-day maths course, and we were like, this is going to be huge because we know our product works. We just need to get people in front of us. And if people see how good it is, they'll sign up, right? So they kind of said, okay, so has this ever been done before in education? We said, no. And you don't plan on charging the students anything at all? No. Do you think it's going to work? Yes. And you're not going to charge them anything? No. And they said, look, guys, forget it. Try it out. You guys raise the money yourself, and it works. Come back to us next year, and we'll look at it maybe. So anyway, we left the bank with our tail between our legs, and myself and Brian, look, 15,000 euros is a lot of money, and it was huge money to us back then. We just basically asked friends and family, look, guys, here's the idea. Can you pitch in and build a pot up to 15,000? And we kind of managed to do that. Selling people the dream. We didn't have to give away any equity or anything in the business. It was all on loans with an interest rate. And we raised the 15,000 and we went and spent it. And as soon
How hard was it to spend that?
The easiest money we've ever spent. The quickest money too.
A lot of t-shirts, I'd imagine. A lot of the branding.
And we spent the money and the phone exploded. I've never seen anything like it. It just wouldn't stop ringing.
Now, where was the office at this stage?
So the office was like in my parents' house in Knocknashee in the attic.
Okay.
And we'd then drive from there to the parish centres. Then we moved up to Jollylands, where you.
So where was the landline? Just, I'm thinking of the finer details.
So landline. Here we go. This is one thing I did mention. So on that sign there, you'll see a number 442-442. That was
still work.
Yeah, that's our phone number today. So if you ring that number, I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera. That will ring reception right now. So that number that came from myself and Brian came up with the Dublin School of Maths as the name, and we didn't want just our number 086 whatever 1234 to be the number. We wanted to sound like it had a landline. So we rung up Aircom. We said, do you have any numbers for sale? They're like, yeah. And they read us out a few, and that one was the best one. So we said, yeah, we'll take that. So we got the number. And
some of the money gone.
Yeah, there you go. And we linked it to a mobile phone, like a Nokia, an old Nokia phone. So basically, you redirect it to a mobile.
Cool.
So anytime you rang that, the mobile rang. Anyway, so it just kind of looked better. Optics are everything. Even though behind the scenes it was like Jesus, it was nothing like it. But anyway, it was so that this phone, once we'd spent the 15,000 on marketing, the phone exploded. It was outrageous. Like hundreds of people ringing up, going like, "What's this? A scam? Free maths course? Like, well, I don't believe you." Yeah. And they were like, "No, it's the whole idea is."
Was most people kind of like qualified? Or were they people that just were like random people, or was there a specific kind of group that you really wanted to get there? Or
well, we wanted to get the parents and students of people doing the Leaving Cert.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it was fairly qualified. A few kind of other say competitors ring up, "What's this about?"
Really?
Kind of thing. Yeah.
And did they try to hide? They're like, "Oh yeah, I've got a 15-year-old."
Oh, for all of the years. Oh yeah, all sorts of stuff, espionage going on. Yeah. And long story short, we got about 300 students to turn up for free to this free 3-day maths course. And Brian gave it socks and taught like he's never taught before. And at the end of the 3 days, 150 of those students signed up straight away.
Unbelievable.
So we were able to pay back the loan the next day. And we'd gone from 50 students in our last year to starting with 150 in the next year. And we're like, wow, this is our model here.
Yeah. It must be very difficult to kind of to speed teach someone to come across, like, because it's such a difficult subject. Yeah. How did he manage that?
So he didn't speed teach in that, like in those 3 days, he only covers like 5% of the course. The whole idea was that he'd give you a section of it and deliver it really well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I suppose even in that section, he would have done it quick enough.
That's how he did it. Yeah.
It's a skill in itself to be able to teach that bit in 3 days, certainly.
Yeah.
And was it kind of like actionable stuff, as in like they were better off for those 3 days regardless? 100%. They walk away.
Yeah, okay.
So Brian kind of goes to what you were saying about has to be really high quality, everything 100%. You do. Okay.
So Brian was really clever in that what he'd do is he look at the part of the maths course he knew was taught awkwardly in schools.
All right, interesting.
And he'd go
trigonometry.
Yeah, well, that's one of the easier ones, but a bit of algebra. There's a bit of algebra, say, for example.
Sorry, Chris.
There was a bit of algebra that Brian was like, I'm going to teach that really well.
Okay.
And he had a really interesting way of teaching it. And as soon, like, even I'd go to the class, I was decent enough at maths, but like, say, someone who wasn't good at maths would go in, they go, geez, I actually get that. And I never understood it before when I learned it in school. What else can this guy do I'd miss out on if I didn't join these classes. So that was all about, giving them loads of value and then showing them, look, if you join us for the next year, you're going to get all the rest. And
how much value do you think you gave away monetarily for free if you were to add it all up? Like,
well, I suppose it's not what you give away; it's what you get back. But yeah, look, I mean, I wouldn't be exactly putting a number on it, but it's in the hundreds of euro, you might say. But in return, to sign up for a year grind would be 900 euros. So it's give away 100 to make 900. So ultimately, the bet made sense.
You obviously done that out at the start.
Exactly.
Was it worth it? Yeah.
And it was. Obviously, you don't want to give away too much, because then you're not going to get it back. So we kind of finished out our second year with about 250 students. So we grew about 5 times from the first year. Class. And things were going really well. And people started saying to us, why are you just doing maths? Would you not do Irish and English and French and all the other subjects? And it was kind of at that point we're like, it's time to start branching out. And that was at the point where Brian's brother Tom, who was he actually just dropped out of college. He joined the two of us, and the three of us kind of said, let's start the Dublin School of Grinds. Let's get rid of the name Dublin School of Maths, change it to Dublin School of Grinds, and let's start employing other teachers to join the team. And looking back on the first 2 years, as I said, it was all about the quality of teaching. It was all about that, So if we were going to expand, and this is a thing that every single business as they grow is going to face, is how do you maintain quality as you grow?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of the most challenging things.
And not just looking for, I guess, teachers who are looking to make a few bob on the side, but teachers who are really passionate about.
You wanted the best teachers, and you got them.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Well, we didn't get them all straight away. It took a while, but it was as I said, we knew that if we were going to grow, the maths classes had to be, the English classes had to be as good as the maths classes, and the Irish classes had to be the same as well, because you can't just have one good teacher and the rest okay. They all have to be good.
Was there a template that you had honed down with maths that you could apply to Irish, French? Because it was obviously, Brian was so talented, it's hard to reproduce that.
Very, very.
How did you plan on reproducing that multiple subjects?
Yeah. Well, Brian was interesting. What actually he did was he wrote out, there's a book on my desk over there called Principles, which I'm just finishing off now, and it's all about Ray Dalio's book. Yeah, it's all about principles on life and decision making and how to replicate them. How do you make good decisions consistently? You have principles you work off. Well, Brian kind of documented out some of his principles that worked well, and he created dare I say, a kind of mini training program. And it wasn't it's hugely extensive by any means, but that was one thing we used to help hone some of the other teachers' teaching styles. So they now they're not all the same. It's like saying a football or rugby player. There's not one good way to play the sport. They all have their own different kind of abilities and kind of nuances and all that kind of stuff. But there were certain things that we wanted to have consistent across the board. Literally across the whiteboard even. But what we did was, first of all, we wanted to hire the best, as we said, and we didn't want to just try and cut costs and pay kind of measly wages. We wanted to pay really well. So we found out what the competitors were paying. And we said, okay, look, we got to be in that ballpark or else we're not going to stand a chance. So myself, Brian and Tom said, look, the maths classes are doing really well. Let's just use all of the kind of margin we're making on that and put it into the other classes and pay good wages. Pay the teachers well. And then in time, those classes will get really busy and will eventually make money down the road, if that makes sense. So,
and the classes are still going on at night at this stage?
So all the classes are at night time. We're renting a parish centre. In our third year, we actually had to move from a parish centre to a hotel because the parish centre was too small. And so we started renting the Slorgan Park Hotel. And that went great.
The logistics of that were tough, I'd say.
The logistics were outrageous. But with the teachers, what we did was we put out into the ether what we were going to pay, and we advertised we were hiring teachers, and we simply, the way you hire teachers, you start with the students. We asked all our maths students who are from various schools around Dublin.
Okay, so you're almost headhunting or figuring out.
Yeah, what you guys do. It's asking people, asking our students, are there any good teachers in your school? And they tell you, students will tell you who a good teacher is and isn't. And
because they're rare enough, I don't know, maybe.
Well, back in our day, which wasn't that long ago, but yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I still to this day remember the 2 or 3 really good teachers that I had. Do you know what I mean? You would, if you asked the students, they'd know exactly who to point you to. Right?
Exactly, and they did. And we get a long list of names, and we'd go and meet them for a coffee and a chat and say, look, we're willing to pay this much, but rather than just hire them based on a CV or you know, if they've written a book or advice for the curriculum, we say, can you teach a class for us?
Okay.
Because the only way to know if a teacher is a good teacher is to watch them teach. And we kind of built our whole teaching, hiring philosophy around watching teachers teach, because, you know, an interview can only tell you so much. You know, it's only when you see them in action in a job. Anyone can bluff an interview or have a good CV or whatever, but it's only when you're teaching that you really, your true colours come out. Yeah. And we were told to get the boat, or to, you know, good luck, lads.
Really?
I'm
some
teaching
teachers
for 20 years.
Some teachers were kind of like standoffish.
Yeah,
and like,
they were, yeah. And you know what? Look, I can understand why. You have a couple of young lads who are just out of college going, hey, do you want to teach a class for me there? Yeah. And like, he's been teaching longer, or she's been teaching longer than we've been alive. So it didn't work out in some cases, but in a lot of cases it did. People are like, yeah, sure, why not? And you give a teacher saying, you know, come watch my class. That's going to be a teacher who's nothing to hide, and they're going to be good. So anyway, we kind of paid really well. We interviewed very thoroughly, and we luckily enough, we got great teachers, and then we applied the same free course model to those classes.
Okay.
Yeah. So not only was there a free 3-day maths course, there was a free 3-day Irish course, English course, and so on, French and the like. And we focused on, you know, building those courses up over years, and we went from 250 students to 1,000 students, like literally in our third year. So things were exploding.
1,000 students.
1,000 students.
Unbelievable.
That's in the space of 3 years, and
all over the Slorgan Park Hotel,
all over the Slorgan Park Hotel. It was the N11. There was tailbacks, and it was all sorts.
1,000.
And I remember, like Mark said, we were up in a home office up in Kiltiernan in the mountains. Yeah. Brian and Tom rented a house up there, and we stuck a home
Mark
office
Baker's in there.
And Mark
trying to make it as an artist. Just painting loads of pictures of Bono in the back. His muse.
There you go. Yeah. And we were up there for a couple of years, and that was our home office basically up the mountain. It was lovely, actually. It was great. And we drive then from there to the hotel in the evening time, literally in a van with like tables and chairs and notes, and we'd go and set up every single night. We'd set up 5 or 6 classrooms every single night and a Saturday.
So you're probably preparing all day for this and then working at night. So a lot of hours put into this, even though it's only a nighttime gig. Like
exactly, a lot of hours, a lot of like administration. There's printing of notes. Brian, for example, was creating his maths course. Like, you know, he was constantly working on his notes and refining them and preparing for his classes, because he put a lot of work into those classes. Like every second he'd have planned out with the 75 minutes each night. And you know, a lot of work went in. Like, it was all over the place. You know, on the surface though, the main thing was students turned up and they were taught by great teachers. You know, and that's all that matters.
That's all that they care about.
They only care about. They don't care how ugly it was to get to those ones.
So there's so many moving parts to that. Literally, what was the glue that kept it all together and stopped it from spiraling out of control? Because it was moving so fast. It was the sheer hard work and determination, and the 3 U's. You know, like, what was it?
It's like I said, myself and Brian and Tom, obviously, we came from family business backgrounds, and in the recession, those businesses went under, and we had no choice but to start a business because there was no other option. And I believe that it was that kind of, like, I'd like to say we were inspired to set up the Dublin Academy of Education, or Dublin School of Grinds, but rather than inspiration, it was more so desperation, in that we had nothing else.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Necessity, you know, like you say, like, you know, you don't get your nice to haves, you get your must haves. Our must have was to have an income, and it was almost deeper than that. It was almost to rebuild our family businesses.
This is the thing. This is such an interesting thing, because this is because you're an entrepreneur now. You've damned your children to have to work for themselves. Right? No, but it's so interesting because you guys, I would imagine. So my background as well. My dad was an entrepreneur. We lost that business when we were in Canada for other reasons, but it wasn't there anymore. And it does give you this weird drive of this kind of better times, that like, this isn't the situation that you're in now is only temporary. It feels like all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we'll get back. You'll get that back. You know what I mean?
A little bit hard done by, maybe.
Hard done by. A little bit kind of. This is. I was in line for this, like you said, and you were probably thinking not only were you going to take it over, but maybe explode it, or, you know, maybe not the chemicals, but, you know, it's like, you know what I mean?
But it comes back to the why. It really does when you strip it right back. For me, the why. I didn't come from an entrepreneurial family, and that was the problem. I had seen what happens when you play by the rules and get a 9 to 5 and just stick to that. It doesn't take you very far. You know, you can actually go straight through a boom and a recession, same level. And for me personally, the way I'm built, it wasn't enough for me. So that was mine.
It's such an interesting thing though, because the kind of, like I said, it's kind of in the DNA. Then that's sort of always like you needed an income, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's loads of people out there who would just use that as an excuse and be like, well, there's no jobs, just be on the dole for a little while and then go off to Australia. Train.
Yeah.
That's
there was a bit of that, yeah. Well, there actually wasn't. Well, a little bit. But like, I'm a great believer in the quality of your life is controlled by the quality of questions you ask, both of other people and more importantly yourself.
Love this.
And when I went through that, when our family business went under, it was a really tough time. My father got very ill as a result of that, had a stroke. He was really sick. And I was going, geez, this sucks,
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, as I said, my back up against the wall. And I kind of asked myself, okay, what's good in this? What's good in this situation? And it's a tough thing to ask when things don't look good at all. And the thing that I kind of came back to was, this is an opportunity to rebuild. We're at rock bottom now.
Yeah.
And when you're at rock bottom, the old cliche, the only way is up.
Yeah. No, I love that cliched. In the SharkPod, we're all about cliches. Let me tell you.
Cliche alert there.
Cliche. Any shark puns are okay here as well. So,
but I'd say that the business going under, as I said, what's good in this? It was the opportunity, but it was also that chance. Like, the only way to grow as a person is to be under stress or pressure. Like, if you go to the gym, the only way to build a muscle is to stretch it and to push it beyond its limits. And I feel if I'd gone into the family business, I think I would have had an easier path than I would have now. And it's the struggle that I went through for many years, like, that kind of stretched me and made me leave my comfort zone a lot more than I would have otherwise, and helped me develop skills I don't think I would have got otherwise.
Because a lot of people your age are just starting businesses now, or like we said a few times, they might have a kind of a big mortgage now, or 2 kids, and it's kind of like, I've got 100K coming in from this job. So my life, not showing. No, I've got people have good incomes when they're like in their early 30s. Very difficult to make that leap. Mark broke out of that, but I think there's a big chasm then, and it gets wider as you get older. Totally. If you're 10 years in the game, you're 10 years ahead of most people, I think, that are starting their own businesses.
I sometimes meet young students in college or whatever, and they ask me about being an entrepreneur, and they say, do you know what, I'm just going to go get a job for a few years. I'm going to save up, become an entrepreneur. I'm going to get a job and save up a few quid, and I'm going to start a business once I've got savings. I go, that is the worst thing you can possibly do. The most valuable thing you have now is your youth and your lack of responsibility
100%.
And the lack of liabilities on your balance sheet. Be it like if you have a mortgage or if you have kids or whatever, like those things, those commitments are going to prevent you from making the leap to become an entrepreneur. Like, you can raise money, you don't need to save money. And I think, the younger you start, the better. But I mean, there's no age to start. It's not perfect age.
Absolutely, and there's people that are successful starting businesses when they're 40 because they've got 20 years experience as well. But
100%.
It's kind of interesting that you kind of touch on there. It's like the Robert Kawasaki book that you were talking about there. That whatever you think about, that guy or his message, that kind of quadrant that he talks about where your money's coming from. Mark, have you ever seen this?
I've read it. Yeah. Cash flow quadrant.
The cash flow quadrant. It's so interesting that it's not what we're taught in regular schools. It's not what we're taught. Really, a lot of parents aren't saying, okay, your house is actually going to be a liability, not an asset, because it takes money out of your pocket and puts it mostly in the bank's pocket in interest and stuff like that. And if all of your income's coming from salary, then the government's going to get paid first out of that. And there's nothing, you can't control any of that. But if you've got assets that are paying you, like a business or like investments, stuff like that, no one's really focused on that too much, and it's something that we really need to work on in Ireland, because if you look at our GDP, it's very impressive compared to a lot of our European competitors. The average wage is quite good, actually, if you look at our people around here, but our average wealth is super low. So we're spending the money on depreciating assets as
doodads.
All these, like Dave Chappelle says that he said he's all his friends just by depreciating assets. That's what So, but like where I worked in Canada for a few years, and every single person I worked with had a not just a savings account, but I had a stock account, and they
yeah.
were trading stock. Everybody.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when they're 30, 35, they've got kind of 100k in stock put aside.
Wow.
That's everybody. That's not someone.
Oh.
That's not weird for that to be. And when they were telling me that, and I got there when I was 25, 26, and I was like, had no stock, nothing, no assets really.
The ninja generation.
Yeah, exactly. So I started kind of learned from them and said, okay, not every penny has to be saved. You can actually buy stuff that's going to make you money in the long term. Yeah. But it's just interesting to hear that kind of mindset as well.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the timeline.
Yeah.
You guys, you've got 1,000 people there.
1,000
Are you
students,
feeling overwhelmed at this stage?
Oh, big time.
Okay.
Like, the cracks are really starting to show.
Yeah.
The whole thing was held together with sellotape. And I remember, like, we still had the phone, like the iPhone, or it was an iPhone at that stage. We'd moved up in the world. And this was ringing so much that it was like burning out. Literally, they kept turning off because it was so hot all the time. Yeah. So anyway, my sister actually joined the school at that point, and she helped answer the phone and administrate. But then we had to hire like 2 more people just to like answer phones, and we had to get a phone system put in. And now I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. We moved out of the home office in Jollylands to an office across the road from the Stillorgan Park Hotel. There was a load of office buildings there.
Yeah.
And I just knocked on all the doors, and I found the guy who owned it all. He had his office there, and I said, "Can we rent that room from you?" He goes, "Yeah, all right." And so we rented a room across.
He's
the
probably
road from
delighted
the
to see you at
hotel.
that stage.
Yeah, he was thrilled. Yeah. It was cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about rents now. This was nothing.
Nice.
That was a great location,
It was
though.
a lovely location.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember how much it was, but it was like
Yeah.
£1,000 or something, or
Yeah.
1,500 quid, and it was huge. You could have fit 20 people in there.
Wow.
Amazing.
And we rented it from him, and we just started hiring people. Like literally, like Brian would turn up for work one day, and he wouldn't know who some of the people were who were working there. And it was a crazy time. And things started to kind of level out for us. We started to develop departments in the school whereby you had an administration department, we had an operations department, which is basically lads who just lifted stuff.
Okay.
Because there was so much logistics going on with setting up tables. Like the Stillorgan Park Hotel would give us an empty room and say, "Right, guys, good luck." So we had to bring the whiteboards in, we'd bring the tables in, bring the chairs in. And at the end of the night, to go, "All right, you got to clean that out." And we had to empty everything out and store it.
And how long did you do that for?
So we did that for about 2 years in the hotel.
Wow.
And
At what stage during that 2 years did you think, what the hell are we doing? Can we not just centralise the whole thing? Because I used to always think that, and you were just continuing on. I was thinking, it's obviously working, but why was it?
Mark is sitting there with his easel going, "Shouldn't we be doing that?"
So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, where we really realised that we needed to sort ourselves out was in the hotel in about our 4th or 5th year. And I think we were up to about 1,500 students at this point, or maybe even more. And the general manager called me into his office. He was a great guy, I got on really well with. And he said, "Right, Chris, your students aren't buying any coffees or lunch or dinner. They're just coming in and they're leaving, and we're not getting any passing trade from this, so we're going to have to double the rent."
What?
Really?
And we're like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, look, and I was very upset.
And you were there for 2 years doing that?
Yeah.
And
So we were coming out of recession a little bit.
Okay.
The market was getting good. He was starting to get phone calls from other people trying to book the rooms.
What would they be booking the rooms for?
Conference rooms,
yeah.
so that they'd be using it for
business meetings maybe, or
all sorts of
In
stuff.
the evenings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the evening times. And we were doing 4 nights a week. And
no loyalty though. He's not double the rent.
Look, as I said, I have a philosophy. It's chapter number 1 of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends is don't ever criticize, condemn, or complain. Now, at the time, I did all 3 of those things.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. But he basically said, "Look, the rent's going to double," and we had no choice but to pay it. We were homeless. We were at a point where we were so big that like no temporary venue could fit us. So no parish centre or other hotel was large enough and in the right location to facilitate our operation.
So where are you in comparison to your closest competitor when it comes to size right now?
In size,
Yeah.
well,
Not
that
right
stage.
now, I mean at that stage. Yeah.
at that stage, we were probably like about half the size of our
Okay.
main competitor on Leeson Street. Maybe even a little bit more than that in terms of weekly classes. Now, at this point, we were doing everything once a week, for students. It was there was no full-time school, but we had about 85 to 90 classes every single week. We were hosting 80 or 90 75-minute classes. Like, it was bananas.
Whiteboards getting rolled out of
Whiteboards
everywhere.
We'd honestly, we had 50 whiteboards just on stands, and it was just crazy. But anyway, he told us, "Look, rent's Dublin, lads. We had no choice but to pay it." And we kind of said to ourselves, "Okay, we got to get out of this situation. We need to get our own building."
Yeah.
And
Even communicating with
funny
1,000
story. Do
people
you
to change
remember that
is
huge whiteboard that you had in your box room?
I do.
Did I give you that? Because I got one from Brian. It might actually be.
Do you know what? I have no idea where that came from.
Yeah, I think I gave
Tell
it
you where
to
it came from.
Yeah,
it came from there.
So we kind of embarked on this kind of journey to find our own venue. And to find your own venue, like where you sign a lease and everything, it's not that straightforward. Like, you got to have planning permission. You have to have educational use on a building. It has to be in the right location. Location is everything, you know, in terms of where you're going to put your business, particularly a B2C business like ours. So we needed somewhere in the kind of South Dublin, Stillorgan, Blackrock area. And long story short, we put in planning applications 3 times. The first one was replacing Mount Marion. Put it in, it failed. Apparently Mount Marion don't like traffic. I'm not surprised. There's 5 different residents associations up there, and all 5 of them objected to us. Then we went into a place in Blackrock, and we sank a strong 6-figure sum into a planning application down there with architects' fees and all sorts, and engineers' costs, and and we put that in thinking this is it now. It was an old school, which I mentioned, that moved up to the mountains, and we were going to take over their building and add on to it and stuff. Anyway, we got literally to the final hurdle and it failed. Literally, the planning failed.
Chris, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there's a well-established paying school there that may have kind of been,
I don't think there
someone had a word. No, okay.
But no, the reason it was nothing to do, it was actually to do with local residents again.
Really?
You know, they were subject.
Powerful lobby, these guys.
In fairness, you know, people don't like traffic, and I can understand that, especially if it's beside your house. So the first 2 places failed, and we found this place, right? I saw a sign go up on the side of this building. Where we are at the moment, we're above Stillorgan Cinema, kind of above the Lidl.
I love this location.
Great location, yeah.
Oh, we love it here. It's great. And on the side of this building, a to let sign went up, and I was like, "Whoa, that's unbelievable! Like, what a location! This is perfect." And I rung up the estate agent, and I met him down here, and he took one look at me. He's like, "How old are you?" Well, you know, he could tell straight away that he didn't take me seriously, because I would have been like 26 or 27 maybe at the time. Looked quite baby faced.
It's a proper lead. It's a proper space here as well. How big is it? You were saying
it's now 18,500 square feet. Now at the time it was a bit smaller than that, because we've added to it since. But I met this guy.
Still, it's a big commitment, like.
So I know, a big time. I was too stupid to realise that. And this guy brought me around the place, but I could tell the whole time he wasn't interested. He was like, "This guy's just wasting my time." So at the end of the meeting, I said I'd call him. I tried to, then he didn't answer. Emailed him, he didn't respond, and this went on for a couple of weeks. And I was like, "This
the
guy
economy's picking up at this stage as well."
This guy's ghosting me, and he thinks, you know, I'm not to be taken seriously. So I didn't want to give up on this, because I really wanted this place for us. And I did a bit of research online. You can find anything on the internet, by the way, if you look hard enough. And I found out who owned it. I found his name, and I found his mobile number, and I called him. I said, "Hey, how's it going, Mr. X? My name's Chris, and I work in the Dublin School of Grinds, and can I come and meet you? I have an opportunity. I think you'd be very interested in hearing in relation to your building in Stillorgan." And he goes, "Sure. How's tomorrow?"
Why not?
So I drove down to his office down the road and met him for a coffee. I told him the story, kind of what I've been sharing with you guys up to now, and said, "Here's the plan for the next 10 years. This is our belief in what we can do with X, Y, Z. Will you back us?" He goes, "Hell yeah, I will." You know, he goes, "That estate agent, forget him. You know, I won't deal with him."
He missed out on the commission, probably.
He missed out on the commission, and I negotiated directly with the owner and his team.
My God.
And we signed a lease, a 20-year lease, and a you know, but subject to planning. And we lodged planning, and like cut a great deal in terms of splitting costs and all sorts. And he backed it totally.
Wow.
And we put it through planning, and it got through planning.
What was it beforehand again?
This was an office space. It was all this designated office. There was actually an insurance company here with 14 people working in it, and they had 1,000 square feet each, because there was 14,000 square feet. Wow. So no wonder they went out of business.
That's amazing. That's a great lesson for our listeners as well. Taking the bull by the horns. Like, that guy wasn't calling you back, so you just figured out a way around him. How many people, or how many times have like there's been a roadblock or something, so we just go, okay, well,
simple things.
It's almost like we get to opt out, or like a cop out on something. Say, well, listen, I tried. I called your man. I called your man 3 times.
Why did you turn up at his house?
Yeah, exactly.
Why didn't you stop? Why did you keep going for it?
It was again, like I'd say, inspiration. If it was more of a romantic story, but it was desperation. Like, we had no choice but to get our own place, because like our whole business was dangling from a thread, and that thread was been held by the landlords we had, i.e. the hotel owners. And we had to make sure that wasn't the case. And like what I'd say to anyone in business is know where the degrees of failure are. And if you have one degree of failure, i.e. one thing can go wrong, your whole business goes.
And you had learned that the hard way from your family business.
And we'd learned that, yeah. So getting our own premises really resolved that issue, and it gave us security of, tenure in terms of now be here. So I signed a 20-year lease, and we had this place.
Almost as old as you were at the time. You're like, 20 years. You're probably like, whatever.
40, grand.
That's amazing. And tell me, when you moved in here, so how many students are there right now? Just to give context to the listeners who maybe haven't heard of the business, or maybe want to send their kids there.
So there are around 3,000 students every week coming to our evening classes during the week. So the school itself, and I might just tell one bit more of the story before I go into this, but just as we signed the lease and the 20-year lease, I remember my two business partners, Brian and Tom, had been hinting at the fact they might want to do something else.
Okay.
So they
tired of working 15-hour days.
Not surprised. And Brian had kind of worked his way out of the teaching at this point, and Tom as well was working his way out of the management of the school as well. He was the general manager. He ran things pretty much. And they said, look, Chris, we want to do something else. And,
it's probably 5 years into this.
We went out. It was actually about 6 or 7 years.
Okay,
in at this point.
They've put in a good shift.
Big shift. Yeah, exactly. They really had. So they were like, we want to do something else, and what's your crack? Can you basically buy us out? And I remember we went to the Goat down in the pub there, and they basically kind of showed me what they wanted, wrote it on a napkin, kind of thing. There you go. And I was like, Jesus, I don't have that. But I knew I thought about it long and hard, and I knew I wanted to drive things on and stay with it because, we put all the work in, and I felt there was still some unfinished business to do. And basically, I had a mission there. We just signed a 20-year lease on this place. I was like, Jesus, do I really want to go on my own here? Because what if things don't work out? That's over my head a bit. Anyway, despite that, he said, no, we'll drive on. And rather than just go and get the money off a bank or maybe a private individual who's got high net worth, I wanted to make sure that we got somebody to kind of help me facilitate an exit for the guys, but someone who would come in and be a strategic partner.
Add something to the business.
To the business. So not someone who can just write a check, but someone who can write a check, but also bring strategic value to the school. So
how do you go about finding something like that? That's always the interesting thing, because I know Mark's done that with his business as well. Like the investment that he's got, it added a lot, not just for financially, but how do you even find somebody who's fits the bill?
I suppose we've been about 7 years in the industry, if you will, and we kind of had a list of people we knew, kind of, be it some were competitors, some weren't, some were just in the educational space that we knew of who had capital and had know-how. So the three of us kind of wrote a list of about 30 people / companies. And between the three of us, we went and met all 30 of these people. And the way we actually kind of approached them was, we said, hey, how's it going? We're Chris, Brian and Tom, and we run the Dublin School of Grinds, and we see you're in education. Do you want to meet up for a coffee? Literally, that's what it was like.
Yes.
And very, very casual, like not too much of an agenda shared. And the whole idea was we'd go and meet them just for a chat and, just try to get a sense as to the type of people they were.
Yeah.
Do you like them? Do you feel like there's potentially, something there? Could you do business with them? And we kind of whittled it down to one guy, and I kind of made the decision that's the guy I want to go with. Then met him again and came clear and said, look, the reason we want to meet you was the lads want to exit and Chris wants to stay and drive it on, and here's the plan to do that, and do you want to invest? And between the jigs and the reels, it was about 9 to 12 months of negotiation to get that over the line.
Okay.
The most stressful year of my entire life, without a shadow of a doubt, because...
Not the first year, no?
No, this was by far the most stressful, because the two lads had kind of, which was actually good, they'd worked their way out completely.
Okay.
So this meant that I was kind of still running the school in terms of managing it.
Yeah.
But I also had to then do the deal with the investor as well. So I was kind of juggling a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah.
And it was very, very tough.
And he's doing a lot of kind of like due diligence, rather.
Yeah.
Sorry, a bit of a block nose here. So. Due diligence. Anyway, and you're going to provide loads and loads of like kind of document stuff for him while you're also running this place.
It's amazing the level of detail they go into, which was great, to be honest, because one thing...
I'm sure you bring in the experts at that stage.
So I mean, we went off, we obviously got our solicitors involved, we got corporate financial people involved, but I also had a mentor who'd been helping me for a long time, who'd been helping the three of us for a long time, and just kind of on a pro bono basis, because he kind of liked us. He thought we were interesting to work with and whatever. And he really helped us kind of craft our message to the investor and how to help manage the investment kind of process and the due diligence you spoke of. And yeah, so we eventually got there, and the end of kind of in around 2017, we managed to sign a deal, and the two lads moved on, and I was left with myself and the investor, which was great. What was funny was, though, I laid out a serious gauntlet of what I planned to do. You know,
you're going to push on now.
Push on now. So like the investment was based on, you know, all right, Chris, you know, I'll invest, but you have to do X, Y, and Z. You know, it wasn't just a case of there's the money, off you go. It's like, okay, well, how are you going to grow the business? You know, how are you going to double turnover? How are you going to increase, you know, efficiencies and the like? And I was like, well, look, we've got this building here in Stillorgan. It's 14,000 square feet at the time, and it's empty from 9 in the morning till 5 in the evening. There's nobody here. It's a ghost town. And, you know, in the evening time, then it's packed. Why don't we, you know, put something in during the day? You know, let's start a day school. So I basically, as part of my whole pitch, the investor said, we'll start a day school here for 5th and 6th year and repeat Leaving Cert students. And his investment was primarily based on us delivering that.
Okay.
You know, and there was all sorts of metrics and, you know.
And tell me, does that really complicate the business if you're having students here all the time? Is there loads and loads of stuff that you have to put in the background? Because then you're kind of a school then, right? It's not just, what's the... Yeah. It's the same thing. Like.
It's at least 100 times more intense.
Yeah, I was going to say.
At least 100 is probably being, you know, not even accurate. You know, it's unbelievable, because with students once a week, they come in, you teach them and they go.
Yeah.
Whereas when they come in full time, you're their main point of contact. Yeah. You're looking after them from 9 in the morning till 5 or 6 or 8 in the evening if they're studying late. So there's a huge amount of support required there to make sure that you're delivering, you know, a good quality service to them. So that was a steep learning curve. So what was interesting was, though, even like starting the school, like I had no idea how to do it. Like I had no idea how we were going to do it, but I said, yeah, no worries. Yeah, start a school, grand. Sign here. Literally signed away everything. We signed it up in 2017. We were launching then in September 2018. So we had about a year to kind of figure it out. And we kind of just, like, myself, and at this stage we had like 45, 50 staff. So like it wasn't just me on my own.
Yeah.
You know, we did have a marketing team, and we had like a general manager, you know, so I had a kind of close group of people who, you know, was our team basically. And we kind of sat down and designed out a process to market a full-time school. Like how do you market a school? Like what do you do? Like you know, not many people have done it. Like so, there's no real playbook as such to draw from.
And you can't say, you know, De Valera went here. Do you know what I mean? Like those really old schools.
Maybe that's the selling point. It is brand new.
Yeah, and I can tell you just from walking around, you gave me and Mark the tour here. Super impressive. My first thought was, this is such a step up from like just going to school normally in Cabinteely, where I'd say you're just like, we're kind of just another number. Everyone's rank and file. It's very, you know.
I think if you privatize anything, it's going to be the best, or should be. You know, the best.
The atmosphere, just when I walked in, everyone's kind of happy. Yeah. It's just weird.
You were sold at the fly fit.
There's a fly fit down there that people can get, you know, get their workout in and everything. It's really cool.
Yeah. So, but it, like in terms of marking the school, like we just asked ourselves some simple questions. Like as I said, the quality of your life is controlled by the quality of questions. So it's like, hey, what do you have to do to get somebody to sign up to a school? You know, what do you have to do? And thankfully now, granted, we didn't start from scratch. We had 7 years of grinds behind us. 7 years of students coming through, being taught by these teachers.
Their little brothers and sisters went through that, maybe, or their older brothers and sisters went through that, and so they have that kind of the branding and everything like that. So but you're taking a big step because it's you know, completely different, like you're saying.
Oh, big time, yeah. So, you know, we did have a bit of word of mouth, absolutely, but, you know, a lot of people are very skeptical, of course. So we designed, basically, long story short, a 6-step process of bringing somebody from just coming on our website to read about the school to actually being a paying student in our full-time school. And the steps, not to go through all of them and bore you, but it involved them coming along to an open night. Yeah. And at the open night, you get a tour of the school, which we're lucky that we had the facility open at that stage. Yeah. And at the open night, myself, I get up and speak about the genesis of the school, not as long as this, but for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, just giving the background. Then our principal would get up and speak. I wasn't the principal. I wouldn't be good enough to do that type of job. It's not my area. So he'd get up and talk about the ethos of the school and how it was going to work, which was a very work word tends to use.
How it will work.
Here's what we will do and what we think will work.
Yeah.
And then we'd have a couple of teachers, like we kind of bring out some of our really good teachers and show them, this is how I teach Irish or maths or whatever. And then we'd have a former grind student stand up and say, look, I was taught by these teachers and they're great and they really helped me. And at that open night, then people could, at the end of it, they'd have learned a great deal about our plans, and then they could also ask questions at it too. But really, then the next step was to come and meet us on a one-to-one basis, just like this, right? So the idea is that it's an interview. Now, in reality, it was them interviewing us,
of
because
course,
they're the ones who are going to be
taking a punt,
to the service and taking a punt. In fairness to them, and. In those, I kind of insisted that I sat in every one of those one-on-one interviews, because I saw it as an opportunity for market research, really listen,
get some feedback. Yeah,
because it's all about what your customers are saying, and I wanted to adapt what we were saying based on what they wanted. So I sat in every one of those meetings, and we did over 250 of them.
Wow!
Over the course of those 12 months, so we did about 10 or 11 open nights.
Imagine the learning that you had there. That is unbelievable.
What was what's some of the key feedback you were getting?
Certainly was one of the key things was that it's like, okay, yeah, you've got great teachers, but what else? What are you going to do to ensure my student is happy, my son or daughter is happy here? What's your track record in running a school before, which was a very poor answer I gave to that. Even little things like, who's backing this school? What are your books like? Are you solvent? If I give you my fees, will you last the year? So really kind of. Okay. It's some difficult questions there.
What are the pain points for a parent of a teenager when they're thinking about school?
What's interesting is it's actually the decision to come to our full-time school is often student-led in every case, in that the students are coming to their parents saying, look, I'm not happy where I am. I want to do this level of the Leaving Cert, and I don't think my current situation is going to produce that. And parents just want their kids to be happy, 100%. Kind of in a roundabout way. They just want their kids to be happy.
It's a very fragile time as well. You talked about the point system in Ireland for when you're doing your Leaving Certificate. It's such an important thing, and there's a lot of pressure on the kids. If they are ambitious and they come to their parents and say, I've got a geography teacher who's falling asleep during the thing, you know what I'm talking about. He's falling asleep during class, and I'm not going to get there. I think that might push it as well. But also, without getting into how much the fees are or whatever, the amount that you're going to pay for the value that you get, if you get just a few more points, you might get you into that, might get you into nursing, or might get you into being a veterinarian. Do you know, that's the type of thing that
it's a small price to pay.
It's a small price
Those
to
extra
pay.
100 points, the long-term value of that, is actually very, very high.
Compare them. It's a tiny amount to spend. And what people wanted was they wanted consistency across the board in terms of no matter what subjects they took, they wanted to be taught by great teachers. It shouldn't be the case that you've got 2 great teachers and 4 awkwardly bad ones and 1 terrible one. You should have 6 or 7 brilliant teachers across the board, and that's what we promise here at the Academy. No matter what subject you take, you're going to be taught by a passionate, dedicated, driven teacher who cares about you and will deliver the goods. And that's really what students and parents ultimately want, is they want that consistency. But also what they want is they want an environment that's kind of positive. A lot of the times, schools can be tough places for some people, I kept on thinking concentration camp, but I'm not thinking that it's not that bad. But you're concentrating a lot of hundreds and hundreds of students with all different backgrounds, with all different ambitions, and then you might be in a class. I was in classes where the tall poppy syndrome, where people didn't really want to stand out, if they want to put up their hands and say, I'm trying to get 100 points out of this, but if you're in an environment where everyone, although obviously there's going to be different abilities throughout the thing, but at least everyone in these types of environments, it's an opt-in to do your best. Exactly, and you've hit the nail on the head there, in that everybody wants to be here. There's no situation where there's a couple of messers at the back who are just waiting for the class to be over or the year to be over. Everybody has made the decision to come here, and it's a big step, in terms of obviously it's financial commitment too. So you get that buy-in from the students, so it creates an atmosphere of concentration, but in a positive sense. In that everybody's there to do well and do their best, and it creates a lovely atmosphere here. In that,
you're the average of the 5 people are closest to you.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
That's a really good analogy for this type of environment, I'd say, as well, because there's people out there, like, it even felt a little bit like almost like a college walking around. You know what I mean? So they're getting that kind of experience a little bit, so it's not going to be...
Yeah, it's kind of like we see this as a bridge from second level to third level. It's more similar to third level here because little things like there's no uniform, you know, which most schools have uniforms. You call your teachers by their first name, so it's Rob, you know, or Tracy, or, you know, Dave, or Ron. It's just... So you build a bit more rapport with adults at a younger age. So you kind of become a little bit more mature, if that makes sense. Whereas you're not like Mr. Smith or whatever. You get in trouble for...
It's collaborative rather than...
Collaborative, exactly. So it's basically like, you know, the way the Leaving Cert works is it's the students against the examiner at the end of the day. And the teacher sometimes is in the middle of that. Whereas the teachers here are kind of on the side of the students very much. It's like, right, guys, it's us against the Leaving Cert here. Let's put our best foot forward.
It's almost treating it like, because not a lot of my friends, some of my friends went to grind schools for 5th and 6th year, or just 6th year, you know, and I saw their notes, I saw what they were kind of doing, and it felt like they were almost treating it as a game rather than a hurdle. They're saying, okay, this is my game plan. This is what the questions are going to be, or, you know, this is how I'm preparing. It was just at a different level than what I was just reading chapters of the book.
Not knowing how to apply what you've learned in the exam situation. It's kind of like trying to go onto a rugby pitch and not knowing the rules of the game and trying to play. Like, you need to have some kind of understanding as to how to score a try,
100%,
or the rules. And like, I think students crave that, and that's something that we definitely offer here.
Okay.
Is there anything in the school that you offer that you brought in that you felt you didn't get in your education?
Funny you say that. Yeah, absolutely. I'm really passionate about personal development and reading books and psychology. Like, Tony Robbins is my all-time hero. And
I remember you talking about him 10 years ago.
Love Tony Robbins. I remember when I was back in the recession days as well. I was labouring, and
nice. I
was working for Landscapes for Landshapes, I think it was called. It was a landscaping company. And I used to listen to Tony Robbins, the 30-day personal power.
Personal power. Or Get the Edge.
I think it actually, I have done Get the Edge, but it was personal power at the time. I remember everyone that was on my van knew that I was listening to that, like, in the slagging that I was getting.
He's that weirdo.
But
join some cult back there.
No, but I love that. Just sometimes I still put that on the background, just kind of have that positive vibes going on.
Oh yeah, you put positive stuff in, positive stuff starts coming out.
Exactly.
So in terms of your question, like, to that point, I along with a colleague here, a guy called Dave, we started a personal development club, whereby it's you know, it's only a 5-hour course, but it starts off with things like goal setting and understanding your why. You know, we talked about why at the start of this interview, and the why is so important. So we help students like think about, oh, you're doing the Leaving Cert here, okay? Well, why do you want to do the Leaving Cert? Why do you want to do well in it? And try and put a little bit more meat on the bone for them, and saying, like, let's think a bit broader than just those exams. Like, where do you want to go in your life? And let's try and, you know, you're not going to get it perfect, but like put a bit more kind of behind why you're here, you know. And
it's so interesting. Like, this is something that I talked about because my wife is a teacher, and I sometimes been thinking about. That's kind of missing in our education system, like that kind of personal. What we're
I had that. I have to say, I had the why when I was in school. I saw a distinct, a clear correlation between the amount of work I had to put in and do the exams to the amount of money I was going to earn when I was older. I could see that, and I used to think, "Are you mad? Will you listen?" Well, fair enough, I didn't listen all the time. Definitely didn't listen all the time. But I'd be like, "I can't believe you're so lackadaisical about your education. You'll end up, you know, doing X, Y, Z job and." Jesus, like the thought of that, working in Super Value at the time, that was my Jesus. Like, I can't do this. But not everybody has that.
Well, I think everybody can learn that, though. You know, in that
so it could take a day, and then you just clicks, and they're like, "Oh, Jesus!" And then they're done, and then the seed is planted.
And so does everyone? So is that kind of an opt-in thing?
It's an opt-in thing. Yeah, absolutely.
How many people opt in percentage-wise?
Yeah, it was about like 10 or 15%. So not a huge amount because you know, it's tricky to timetable. So it's only for the 5th years. They're the only ones who can do it. So. You know, but we'd have, you know, 25, 30 students coming to some of these classes, and I really enjoyed it. So, as I said, it was goal setting was one of the things we did, and we also looked at like overcoming fear. So, like, understanding what fear is, and, you know, fear is your friend, and, you know, it's a message, and, you know, how to, you know, face it and break through, and things like building habits. So, one of the best books I ever read was called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's one of the greatest books on just habit building.
We were talking about that on episode 1.
Where were we?
Yeah, we were talking about it. Anyway,
it's just phenomenal. It's all about how do you build habits. And with the Leaving Cert, you got to have some good habits. If you're going to do well with life, you got to have some good habits. And you got to understand how to build good ones and break bad ones. So we cover that, and also things like communication skills. So one of the greatest things I ever did in my entire life, I was terrible at public speaking. I hated it like everybody, and I did a Dale Carnegie course, 2 days. It was €1,500. It was outrageously expensive, but it was the best €1,500 I ever spent in my entire life because I overcame my fear of public speaking and learned a lot about how to, but I'm still on a very early stage in the journey.
What age were you when you did that?
I was probably like mid-20s or so.
That's amazing, because that's something that Irish people don't do so much, is the investing in themselves when it comes to that type of stuff. They're kind of like, sure, I wouldn't do that. Or even if Tony Robbins was in town spending $3,000 to go there for a weekend or whatever, people, I think it's a hard sell.
Working with people who do interviews, that's what I recruit.
Yes,
I can see a clear distinction between the progression of people who can do a good interview, and that is part of it, being able to present yourself.
Oh, totally. You're selling all the time.
That's one of the it's probably, some people find it easier to talk to a crowd than talking to a panel of 3 interviewers.
Oh yeah.
So I've seen that in practice. People who are technically better, candidate A is technically way better than candidate B gets the job because they could verbalize it and
communicate better. Communication is the number one skill of any person, I think, entrepreneur in particular. Like, if you want to build an organization, you can't do it yourself. You've got to influence people, and you got to build a team, and you got to paint a story and build create a vision and bring people on a journey. And if you want to do that, you got to be able to speak and articulate kind of what you're trying to get across. And that's something we talk about.
I think that's super. Are you giving that, or
myself and Dave, when the other lads do it?
Amazing. Really like that. That's something that's really interesting. So what's right now? You've got the 2 years full time. That's up and running now. What's next for the business? Where's it going?
What's next? So it's 10 years into this, our 10th year. What we're looking at doing is, we kind of have the South Dublin market. We feel like we've kind of tapped that now, and it's gone great. And this year we actually launched in North Dublin, doing classes now, weekly classes similar to what we were doing years ago, whereby we're renting a small secondary school, and we're doing 3 nights a week there. Now, it's only humble beginning.
Expand type of thing. It's
exactly. So one of the things we want to make sure is, with the day school here, we have 261 students in the school right now, and this building can only take about 300, and we're going to get to that many and leave it there. And we're going to keep the kind of sense of community, everybody knowing each other. We're trying to differentiate from, competition, whereby there's 13 or 1400 students in the school, and there's hundreds of people in the classes, whereas we have 26 on average in our classes, or 25.
Big differentiator, because some of those grind schools have a huge amount of people in the classes.
Huge. So in our classes in the day school, the teacher knows you, knows your name, knows where you are academically. And that's really, really important, for creating that sense of community and kind of ultimately helping students get through the Leaving Cert. So we want to, rather than drive the numbers up over that, we want to just set up in another location and replicate what we're doing here. So we're looking at North Dublin. Now, as I said, we've got some grinds going in the evening time in a school over there, but ultimately we want to have our own day school out there. Copy and paste what we did here in North Dublin. So at the moment we're kind of exploring properties and God knows what. That. But it's going to take time. It took 3.5 years to get this over the line. I can imagine it would be the same kind of time, particularly now with the property market, because it's going nuts, as you know. So that's one of the options. But then, online is something that is obviously there. Not something that, to be honest, we're doing anything with it at the moment. But there's something there, I think, in the future for online, and I don't think anyone's cracked it yet. Whereas we've got a few things kind of tipping away in our head here that we're working on, but. Eventually there'll be some kind of online offering, but as I said, the Leaving Cert's done with a pen and paper, and it's kind of how do you bring that on the online space and replicate that. Third level are doing it great. There's plenty of distance learning courses out there, but for second level students who mightn't have as much discipline and
it's not
it's a lot of distractions.
It's almost the worst time in your life to taking a big exam. You're so many distractions. You just start to go out. You know what I mean? It's all very. There's a lot going on.
You got 5 different social medias pinging you about God knows what. TikTok is some new thing.
It's a new thing.
You're down with the kids, Chris.
There you go.
Do we have a TikTok account for SharkPod?
No, we don't.
Okay, so we need to up our game, guys. Let's take it to the next level here. So we've gone, an hour and 12 now. So it's been
we do some quick fire questions.
We're going to do some quick fire questions, and then we'll get you out of here. I want to be respectful of your time.
As I said, it's already an hour.
I told you we could be here for 2 hours easily. So some of these are quite easy, and some of them are fairly, not too deep, but try to be quick enough with the answers so you don't kind of think about it too much. Now, don't worry. The first few are easy. So what apps do you use the most? Talking about apps.
I use Google Sheets on my phone. I use Headspace. Being honest with you, Instagram. You know, is this social and personal?
Yeah.
Business
well,
and
the next
personal.
question is what social media ones do you use?
I'd say I use Headspace actually. I've been using that for like the last couple of months. I'm quite enjoying that. Trying to meditate. You know.
That goes into my next question. You're reading my mind. I was going, how do you switch off? Because that's something I'm trying to focus on. How do you switch off?
Switch off, I'd say two things. I'd like to say meditation, but I'm not. Like, I'm not that good at it or do it regularly enough to say that. I'd say like reading is one thing that in the last kind of few years I've really kind of upped my game on. Like
you did a challenge, didn't you?
Did a challenge last year. I tried to read 50 books in a year. And prior to that, I'd read like maybe one or two. And I didn't quite get there. I got 27 in the year.
Still a huge amount of reading.
They were all self-help, you know, businessy type books. But I remember reading that Bill Gates read a book a week, and I was like, if he can do a book a week, like Jesus Christ, no one has any excuse.
But it's also it's obviously had an effect on you because some of the things that even that you've said have come from some of those books. I'm sure
all of it. It sure has robbed someone else's stuff. You know, it's repurposed. That's what
I love the kind of self-help books, the business books, all that type of stuff. Because I was visiting one of our partners in Paris last week, and I was sitting in a cafe trying to get some Wi-Fi for my laptop, and I saw more than one kind of man in his 30s reading a novel during the day, and I text Mark and I go, where do these people get the time? What's going on? Like,
you're so confused.
I said, is that a waste of time? Is that like are they designing their life and I'm missing something here? Maybe I should be in a Parisian cafe reading a novel with a croissant and nothing else to be doing.
Guarantee the next day you're doing it.
Yeah, I'm out there running around with a laptop bag.
So meditate. Well, trying to meditate and then
I'd say going to the gym. That's a big one for me. I go to the gym. One of my colleagues here in work, we go every day at 7 a.m.
Yeah. I did an original painting for Chris. You know that? Do you want to tell people what it's of?
Yeah, it's of Arnold Schwarzenegger winning Mr. Olympia in 1975.
I've seen it. I remember that. It's an impactful picture. Yeah. Really, he spent a lot of time with drawing the muscles and the
it was my pleasure.
Yeah.
It was more of a joke, and then I actually asked you, and then I better commit to this.
Yeah.
So now it's hanging up in our house somewhere.
Brilliant.
Wife's not too happy.
Yeah, I was going to say fair play to her. What time do you get up in the morning, and what time do you go to sleep?
Get up at 6 a.m. And I get up, make myself a coffee, and then kind of gather my things and come into the gym for 7. So I live about 20 minutes away from here and need about an hour to kind of gather myself. I actually get up and I write and I journal. I don't have 5-minute journal. Do you ever do that? Yeah, write down a couple of priorities for the day. I find writing things down is better than just having a bullet point on a computer, you know.
Exactly what we were talking about.
Writing down, commits it to your subconscious mind more, I think, if you write it in. So I write down a few things.
Mark got me a productivity journal. I use it every day for the year.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. Because apps and notes and stuff,
I think technology sometimes gets in the way of, you know, getting that clarity. So little corny things like, you know, what are you grateful for? Try and think of something, you know, because they say if you're feeling grateful, you can't feel anything else, you know, you can feel one emotion at a time. So I do a bit of that, then in for the gym for 7, and then kind of an hour and a bit, and then in for the cafe.
And then going to sleep in the evenings?
I'd be pretty religious about going to bed at about 9:30, and then sleep by 10.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
impressive.
Because sleep, like I read this book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker.
I've listened to it. He was on Joe Rogan.
Podcast. Yeah, listen to Joe Rogan.
Scared the shit out of me.
But Jesus Christ, it's all about.
You got to give that book to our boy here. He's not sleeping at all. He's
yeah. So anyway, that was all about sleep and the importance of it, and it really changed my mood.
What's the book called?
Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Where are we?
So I'm not giving quick answers at all here.
No. If you could do business anywhere in the world, where would it be? In your line of business now, I suppose it's going to be fairly Ireland, I would imagine. Or do you ever have aspirations of doing anything else in another country? You know, do you ever?
That's an interesting question. I don't know, do I give a cliche answer? Like, obviously I'd say Ireland, because you got to ask yourself, why do you do business in the first place? Will I do it for my family, you know, tracing back to the why and stuff like that? And if I was off in Saigon doing this, it probably would lose that, you know. But I don't know, I think, you know what, I will give an answer here. I would say America, in that I think America has a phenomenal culture around entrepreneurship
Yes.
and promoting it and saying that good for you, you're going to start a business. Or
Scalability as well.
You know,
Like-
scalability is obviously huge. Don't get me wrong; it's one of the biggest markets on the planet. But it's almost the psychology of the people there are very much like, you know, good for you, go for it. Whereas I think Ireland is a bit of like, geez, lucky bollocks, you know, or, you know, I told you so. We're kind of a bit of begrudgery.
There's also a bit of a gap in Ireland, I suppose. If not everybody has the encouragement to go for it, well then if you go for it, the chances of succeeding are maybe higher than in a market that everybody's going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's kind of what that Tim Ferriss thing where he says, you know, the middle is the most competitive place. Like if you're shooting for the bit where no one's going for. So if you're going for like, you know, be a sales manager in a tech company, you know, you're going to make good money, but guess what? There's 400 salespeople in their organization that want that specific job, and they might be better than you. Do you know what I mean? But if you're out there building something new, like I said, just building a roof over a bit of this building to make it bigger, no one's competing with you to do that part. Do you know what I mean? So you can have a real impact on that. So it's interesting as well. Okay.
How much money is enough money?
It's a big one.
It's a kind of strange question because there'll never be enough money. You know, if you're doing it for the money, you'll never be happy. You know, money doesn't create happiness. I think lack of money can cause unhappiness, but money doesn't make you happy. I think everyone wants to find that out for themselves, though.
Yeah.
But
it's more the fear of the lack of money.
Lack of money drives a lot of people. Like I think you have to derive your happiness. Well, no one drives it from money. I think that's fair to say. I think you derive happiness, in my opinion, from progress. So if you're doing something you enjoy and you feel like you're progressing in it in some way, shape or form, you'll experience much more happiness out of that progress. Whereas if you kind of stop growing, I believe you start dying inside. So I think you should always be pushing and growing, and you know, but that could be progress at tiddlywinks. But like, you know, you're the best in the world. Like you could be loving life,
absolutely,
and making no money.
So interesting.
But as long as you're covering the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and that
absolutely,
way, you know,
as long as you got food, shelter, and warmth, you know, and your family are looked after. And
but that takes.
You don't need the Bentley.
In South Dublin, that could take a lot of money.
Absolutely.
What do you fear?
I fear. I'm not a great swimmer. I hate canned tuna. They're silly answers, but
not really on the SharkPod. Quite relevant.
A lot of shark-based stuff there. You know, also kind of the never stopping. They can't stop. They die if they stop. So keep going. Yeah, I like it.
So that's the first thing that came into your head.
Yes,
why don't you start swimming?
Yeah, I probably should actually. I think it's a tough answer.
Did anything ever happen to you on the water? Anything that?
I don't know. I think when I was a kid, I just was shy to swim.
All right, so never really.
I'll leave that. I think not to be too philosophical or anything, but I think one thing I would fear is like, you know, I've been on my deathbed and asking myself, you know, why didn't I do that, or why didn't I push myself to do that? And you know, I don't know if you're Les Brown, you know, the kind of motivational speaker. He talks about like imagine yourself in your deathbed and the ghosts of the ideas that you never acted upon are all staring at you, going, why the hell why didn't you do it?
Yeah.
You know, we came to you and you didn't realize our potential.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I'd be afraid of like it's not doing something. Like they say in life, you never regret the things you do, you regret the things you don't do. So
very good.
You know,
super answer.
Love that answer. Mark, one more for the road. What's going on?
Okay. Okay. If you could advise someone to learn one skill, what would it be?
Okay, one skill. I'd say, I think I touched on earlier, I'd say communication. I think communication is very fundamental to getting anything done. You know, as I said, I think human beings are tribal animals, and the reason that we have developed as the dominant species on this planet is because we can communicate with each other, and we can form groups and instruct people to do things and the like. So I think communication is fundamental to that. But you know, let's kind of park that. I'd say if you want to be successful in business, you got to know a number of things. Number one is, you have two jobs: to innovate and to market. I think they're two of the main things in business. And I think on the marketing side of things, like you got to understand how, you know, the latest marketing trends. If you're of a business, you got to learn how to reach your customer, and that's evolving all the time. And I think you really need to be up to date. Not to say that we're the experts by any means, but you know, something like social media for us is something we're all over. Like if you go on our social media channels, like we are pumping out content constantly on social media, and that's something we're constantly investing in. I'd also say sales. You got to learn how to sell if you want to be. It's kind of linked to communication.
100%.
But if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you can't sell, good luck. Like that's what you got to do. And if you can't sell, your business partner better be able to sell. you know.
Yeah. So you got to plug in where you're weak.
Exactly. You want to get that yin and yang situation.
It's obvious in entrepreneurship, but even if not in entrepreneurship, you're constantly selling. You're constantly negotiating.
Like you were selling to those teachers that you were doing at the beginning, where you're saying this is going to be something that you're going to get involved in, but you have to show us first. That's a sale to get them up there.
So when are you going to start a sales academy?
I would have a clue, one day. But I'd say finally the other skill is, if you're an entrepreneur, I think, is this an entrepreneur question or is this in general? But anyway, I think it's finances. This is both personal and business. Like, I think you got to understand the metrics and numbers. You know, if you don't understand the numbers, the business isn't going to last very long. Like, you got to have your finger on the pulse when it comes to everything, you know, in terms of the margins, your balance sheet, your cash flow. Cash flow is king. Like, you know, that's the number one reason why businesses fail, is because they don't manage their cash flow properly. And that's something that I had to learn from the ground up. I didn't have a clue. I literally started reading books about it.
And it's those two skills. It's a really interesting answer, because both those skills are things that you can improve on. Like you said, you took the initiative there to, pay the extra to become a better speaker, as well as learning the books, the fundamentals. You probably don't need to know the level of like accounting that Mark has, being a chartered accountant.
It has come in handy though.
Yeah.
I'd say it has,
yeah. But so that's really great as well. So like I said, we said we're going to do an hour. I've gone 100 or gone an hour and 24 here.
Great.
So we have some unbelievable content here, and I think that people are really going to resonate with this. Right? You started young. It's hilarious looking at you that you're 10 years in business, but it's like, how young you are. So it's inspiration to those people coming out of school, inspiration for people who want to do well in their Leaving Cert to get into the course that they really can get to, that there is another option there through what you're doing. So what we'll do there is we'll leave it here and say thanks very much for coming on the SharkPod.
Thanks, Milkers.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. Pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for joining the Shark. We haven't come up with the Shark Tribe. They're not in tribes though. I don't know.
SharkNation.
SharkNation. Yeah. So thanks for coming along for that. So what we'll do is we'll leave it there. I'm going to kind of tidy things up and post anyway. But thank you very much for coming on, Mark. Thanks very much. See you next week.
Emil.
Yeah. Thank you, lads. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Well, SharkNation, there you go. That was Chris Lauder. Very interesting interview. Loads and loads of action points, takeaways for people that are listening, that are looking to start their own business. And I think one of the biggest takeaways is if you got a business idea or something that you want to do, just get out there and do it now. I mean, this guy was getting going when he was in his early 20s. You're going to be 10 years older, 10 years from now. You might as well have a great business like Chris is running over there. If you guys have any feedback, if you want to drop us a line, you can reach me at luke@shark.ie. I see that we've got listeners all over the world now, including some in Mexico. If you guys want to reach out, that'd be great. I'd love to hear from you guys and see what the story is over there. We might even do a phone-in interview with you guys just to see what's going on in Mexico. We have a lot of interviews already lined up for the next few weeks, so it's going to be an interesting time on the SharkPod. If you want to do us a favor, leave a comment, rate the show, pass this on to somebody that you think would enjoy it, and just keep on swimming. Thanks.